Be reading The Turning Points in the U.S. History, Immigration Through Ellis Island. Over here you have the table of contents. It has Chapter 1, Welcome to Ellis Island. You can find it on page 4. Chapter 2, A Look Inside. You can find it on page 8. Chapter 3, Starting Fresh, page 16. You can also find at the end of the book a timeline, glossary, index, and more facts. Chapter 1, Welcome to Ellis Island. On January 1st, 1892, Annie Moore arrived in the United States. She was only 17. She crossed the Atlantic Ocean from Queenstown, Ireland. The only way was by ship at the time. The voyage took 12 days. A voyage is the same as a long trip. There's an immigration ship. And here is a statue of Annie. Annie came to the United States for a better life. She was the first immigrant to arrive on Ellis Island. A statue of her stands in the museum there now. Many people moved to the United States in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Why? Some had lost their homes or jobs. Some were escaping war in their homelands. Others wanted more freedom. The country needed an immigration station. In 1892, Ellis Island opened in New York. It was the first stop for immigrants who crossed the Atlantic Ocean. This is a picture of Ellis Island. Take a look. Most immigrants came from Europe. Take a look at Annie's journey from Ireland. Can you imagine traveling this far by boat? Here's Ireland, all the way down to Ellis Island in the United States. Chapter 2, A Look Inside. Ellis Island was a busy place. Millions of people entered the country. They arrived with what they could carry. They entered a large building. It was crowded and noisy. First stop was the baggage room. Belongings were left here. They were inspected. Bags from that time period are on display today. Here's a look at what a baggage room and all the suitcases kind of look like. Next, they went to the registry room. Doctors examined all immigrants. Why? They wanted to make sure they were healthy. This stopped new diseases from spreading in the country. What do you think? Have you ever moved to a new place? How did it feel? If you haven't moved, think of someone who has. How do you think he or she felt? Here there's a picture of the doctor at that time, and they were checking out different young boys that were getting ready to enter the United States. What country are you from? What is your job? These are questions inspectors asked. Why? They wanted to stop dangerous people from coming into the country. Immigrants had to answer. Those who passed both exams became U.S. citizens. Here's an inspector right here, and here's some people waiting to be questioned. Not everyone was able to enter right away. Some had to stay in the hospital until they got healthy. Inspectors also kept those they thought would need government help. Many were women and children. Women could not enter without a male relative. What do you think? Between 1892 and 1924, nearly 12 million immigrants came through Ellis Island. What opportunities do you think they were seeking? Here is a group of women and children waiting at Ellis Island. Chapter 3, Starting Fresh. Immigrants settled throughout the country. Some made a living by selling food. Others opened stores. In 1924, new laws passed. Fewer people were allowed entry. In 1954, the government closed Ellis Island. It reopened in 1990. It is now a museum. This says Ellis Island Immigration Museum, Statue of Liberty National Monument. Many immigrants still come to the United States each year. They leave their homelands. Most have similar reasons to immigrants who came through Ellis Island. They work hard to become citizens. They helped the United States grow. Take a look. How many immigrants have come to the United States since Ellis Island opened? Take a look. When has the number increased and decreased? What events in history may have caused those changes? You can see here it started in 1900 with 10 million immigrants. It went up, it had a rise, and then it dipped down for a while. Then in 1970, it looks like it was the lowest, and skyrocketed all the way to 2020, had about, if I look over here, about 45 million immigrants have passed in the United States. Ellis Island has been called the Isle of Hope. Millions of immigrants passed through. They came to start new lives. Today, people visit it. They learn about immigration as part of U.S. history. They often visit the Statue of Liberty too. There's another symbol of freedom. Would you like to visit Ellis Island? Here's Ellis Island, and here's the Statue of Liberty. Quick facts and tools. Here's a timeline. In 1892, Ellis Island opens in January 1st. Annie Moore is the first person to enter the United States through the island. Goes to 1907. A record 11,747 immigrants arrive on April 17, 1907. More than 1.2 million immigrants arrive at Ellis Island in 1907. In 1924, a law is passed in the United States that drastically reduces the number of immigrants allowed into the country. Ellis Island is only used to hold immigrants who cannot immediately enter. In 1954, Ellis Island closes in November. In 1965, Ellis Island becomes part of the Statue of Liberty National Monument. In 1990, the Ellis Island Immigration Museum opens to the public. Over here is a glossary if you would like to look at any of the words and their meanings. The dark bolded words you would have found in your reading, that means that it's in a glossary, and so when you find those in your reading, you can always look in the glossary and it will give you the definition at that time. Here there's an index. It will give you a topic of different events or items that were talked about in the reading, and you can always reference back to it. It'll tell you the page number you can find it more on. That's all. Make sure that you answer the questions that were given to you on the sheet of paper as you follow it along.